Hello, everybody. My name is Don Oliver, and this is the IDP Education IELTS Ask the Expert session. And wherever you are in the world, welcome very much to this session, which I hope will help you in your preparation for IELTS. As I said, my name is Don, and I am the IDP IELTS expert, but we have another expert with us today, which is very special. And his name is William, and he comes from Jakarta in Indonesia. And he has an interesting story to tell and some very good advice for people who are intending to study overseas and intending to improve their level of English and their IELTS score. William was born and raised in Jakarta, and he came to the University of Western Australia, UWA, and completed a Master's in Strategic Communication in 2019. It wasn't just study that he did, he was also heavily involved in helping others. He was a student who was a member of the Uni Buddy student system. He was an ambassador for the University of Western Australia in that capacity. And he was also an ambassador for Study Perth International. Now, he's going to tell you a lot about those things, and he's also going to tell you about his experiences as a student and helping other people, and how he developed as a person as well. He has spoken to many people in many different forums, not just in Australia, but also in his home country, Indonesia, and in Taiwan. Not only that, he has authored 3 books and co-authored 2 others about education and personal development. So he is an expert, and you're meeting him today. The role played by IELTS in his development and his performance at university will also be covered, I hope. And he will share his experiences, and you can ask him questions. So please, no matter what platform you're listening to us on today, whether it's Zoom or Facebook, please do put your questions down as we go, as they occur to you, and we will answer as many of them as we can at the end. So, William, with no more ado, I'm handing it over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Don. Thank you so much, IDP IELTS team, for making today's webinar happen. It's a great pleasure for me, and I'm so honored to speak before all of you. Just want to say hello, having a good time for all of you, wherever you are. I wish I could meet you in person. I miss meeting people. I miss the social interaction, but I think this kind event would not reduce the meaning because we could still interact with each other, asking questions, and also share our stories. I hope that by today's session, the stories that I'm going to share to you, you are going to be inspired to reach your own goals, to build and to catch your dreams. So Don and team, would you mind if I share my screen? Thank you so much. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends all over the world, the title of today's presentation is I Communicate, Therefore I Am. So it sums up the journey that I've gone through in the last 10 to 13 years. I'm originally from Jakarta, Indonesia, so I'm not coming from a privileged family. My parents didn't finish their high school, but with the willpower, with determination, with passion, and also with integrity, they move from the small village in remote area of Indonesia to the capital city and start a new life. So here I am today, and the journey that I'm going to share to you today is all about my communication journey, including with IELTS, including with education, and also my journey in finding scholarship, which I have to admit, it has changed the course of my life history. So I communicate, therefore I am. Today, I have no other words to share. I have no other words to say besides I'm so grateful for all the opportunities, for all the history, for all people around me, kind people, those people who open opportunities for me, who open the doors, And I would like to acknowledge that who I am today is because those people, is because my friends, my families who shape me, who inspire me, and who always believe in me. So first of all, I would like to acknowledge the history. And by saying that I'm being grateful for the history, I just want you to know that no matter where you are today, no matter how big or how small your dream is or your goals are, I just want you to know that all of us, each and every of us, we have the same opportunity to be successful, to pursue the impossible, and also to achieve good things in life. So again, I'm telling you that my parents didn't come from the privileged family, privileged background. So they were raised up in a small village in Indonesia. And at that time, due to the lack of technology, due to the lack of information, especially my father, he didn't know that there was a thing called scholarship that could help him improve his quality, that could help him funding his study and pursuing his goals. So my father finished his primary school when he was 15 years old, much older than today's standard for primary school, and he never come back to formal school afterwards. So my parents, they sold vegetable in the traditional market, in the remote area, in the village, but again, with the power of dream that they know the future is brighter if they decided to do something better, if they are encouraged and brave enough to pursue their goals. So they decided to go to the Jakarta, Indonesia, the capital city of Indonesia, and start the small business. And here I am today. And then I just want to tell you too that I studied communication during my undergraduate study. I went to private school, I went to private universities, and it's all backed up by the scholarship because it's quite pricey here in Indonesia. And then I studied communication, I wrote books, I go to seminar, I present the seminars, and also I share my stories. I have um, the strong will to inspire people because I know so many young generations, so many students, not only in Indonesia, but also all over the world. They have huge potential to do something good in their life, to pursue their academic career, to pursue their academic achievement. But not so many people are so inspired or motivated. Sometimes they think that, well, I'm not privileged, I'm not coming from a fluent family, I'm not rich. So the chance for me to go to the good universities or go studying overseas is nearly impossible. So to all of you, somehow, if you feel that way, I just want to say that you don't have to think that way because history is written and is proven that no matter where you are come from, no matter where my parents come from, no matter where I am come from, so we could always have a brighter future if we know how to do that, if we are willing to learn, and if we learn from the best. So I think you are coming today to the webinar hosted by IELTS IDP is the right choice because me, myself, I also feel that I'm so privileged to do the IELTS test because that's the entry point for me to learn English, to master English, and also to answer the challenge that life has provided to me, which is the scholarship itself. So I traveled from Jakarta to Perth, Western Australia, to finally pursue my Master of Strategic Communication degree. So I finished that in 2 years' time. And during my time, I really want to say that this is one of the best moments of my life, that I study abroad, I meet local friends, I meet international communities, I practice my English, even though I was not so good in the beginning, but I know that this is the one-time opportunity in life that I have to take. I have to go out there. I have to do the community services. I have to meet new people. I have to, going out from my comfort zone and pursuing the impossible. So thank you, history. Thank you, all good things. Thank you for all the bad things that happened to me and my family. And also today, I would like to acknowledge that who I am today, I am built upon failures over failures. So Don mentioned about my short bio in the very beginning that I studied in the University of Western Australia. I'm telling you, I registered for a scholarship. I applied for scholarship for 4 times and I was rejected, not only by one single scholarship provider. but also by other scholarship provider. So I registered for the student exchange program offered by my home university during my undergraduate study. I also registered and applied for scholarship from the government of Indonesia. I applied the scholarship provided by the government of Australia, and the result was nothing. In the very beginning, after 4 failures, I start questioning myself whether I'm capable or not, whether I was born for this. But again, because I have so many supportive people around me, and also I read the good books, I interact with good people, I make friends, and I know so many successful people, I know that I have to be a bigger person. So it means that I won't let failures stop my journey, stop my will, and also stop my plan for having a better life ahead. So after failures, finally I got the scholarship in the end of 2016 during my second attempt applying for the scholarship from government of Indonesia. And then I could choose to study anywhere, over 300 universities all over the world. And I choose Perth, I choose Western Australia. Because I'm thinking that traveling from Jakarta to Western Australia is not too far, and also the time zone is quite comfortable for me to keep interacting with my family. So yeah, I decided to study in Perth. And also Don mentioned about my bio that I'm an author for 3 books, co-author of 2 other books. That's true. But for your information, before I was successfully publishing my first book, before one good publisher finally admitted and took my manuscript and published it into a book, I was rejected 7 times by different book publishers across cities in Indonesia. So I was in my senior high school time at that time. Since I was 16 years old, I finished the manuscript, I finished the draft, and I sent it to a couple of publishers. And some of them told me that you are still too young. So I think you should finish your undergraduate study and then coming back to us. Some of them says that, no, I think your script, your draft is not good enough and it wouldn't do good in the market. Okay, I mean, that's people opinion, and we have to differentiate between opinion and fact. The fact that I have the choice and I could choose not to give up. So on the 8th attempt, finally I met one good publisher in Jakarta and they published my book. And from there, from that point, I start expanding my career as a book author in education and also personal development. Now you might be asking me, why education and why personal development? Simple. I believe that education and personal development are 2 most important things that one could have and one could expect. Education, formal education, informal education, they are all important. But if you have the chance to take IELTS test, for example, as a pathway, as a milestone of pursuing your further degree in the formal education, that's good, that's perfect. And I have to say that you are among top 1% of the luckiest people on earth because you have access to IELTS tests, because you have access to formal education. And as much as we want to make it more inclusive to the people, we have to admit that education is a privilege for some of the people, especially in countries where education is not the primary needs and the government doesn't really provide free education for all. But I'm not talking about politics, I'm not talking about government program. I just want you to think for yourself that if you are here today, you are planning to do the IELTS test, you are planning to pursue your degree in higher education in your country or overseas, you are so lucky. And I just want you to remember that for the rest of your time. And from one failures to another failures, I also learned that nothing can stop us as long as we are keep being humble, learning from the best, opening opening our mind and ourselves for inputs, for guidance. We are looking for good mentors in our life during our professional journey, in our workplace, and also in our universities. So never stop learning and never stop thinking that you are capable of doing something and the brighter future is available for all of you. That's the key message of my presentation today. And I'm going to also talk about how writing, speaking, communication, opportunities, and even the COVID-19 pandemic has changed my life, has changed the way I built my professional career, has changed the way I built my life. So in the next slide, I'm going to share my turning point. We are here today, we are connected through technology, we are talking to each other, we are asking questions, I'm answering questions, we are sharing our stories. It's all about communication, and it's all about conversation. If you could see those two pictures, the picture on the left, it happened in November 2016, the day when the scholarship provider from the government of Indonesia interviewed me for my second attempt applying the same scholarship. So on that day, I met two other friends. This picture was taken after I had the interview. And during the interview, one of the professors, the interviewers, asked me, William, why should government of Indonesia finance your study? So I was telling him that I have clear purpose in my mind, that I have clear goals and I have clear plans of what I will do for my country if I get this scholarship. I promised to him that I will be a good representative of Indonesian overseas, that I will do community services, but without forgetting my main obligation as a student. I told him that I want to be someone. I don't want to be just ordinary guy overseas and spending time overwhelmed by the new places, going traveling, or maybe having fun too much. I don't want to be that kind of person. Instead, I told him that I'm going to be very, very serious about my study, but I also want to be a good representative of my country, because that's very important in international education, in international friendship, and also the way we build our connection in international communities. So you have to know the value of yourself, and you have to know where you are right now and where you will be landing next. So having a very clear idea is very important, because you will never reach or pursue your dreams if you don't know where you are going to go. And the second picture on the right is my conversation with the Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia. Her name is Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati. So she's been admitted by international communities, international magazines, and also institutions as one of the best finance ministers in Asia Pacific, not only once, but more than 3 times. So she's also the person in charge of the government scholarship that my government gave to the Indonesian students. She has background in economics, and she loves everyone who will study economics. So when I got the chance to meet her, I told her, Ibu is the expression to call ma'am. Ibu, my name is William, and I thank you for the government scholarship that I got. I'm going to Perth, Western Australia to pursue my master's degree in communication. And she instantly challenged me. Why do you want to study communication? Why not economics? Economics is the most important aspect to build the nation. And I also instantly told her, Ibu, without communication expert, without communication people, and without communication itself, all good things that you achieve through your economics team and your economics ministry will not be delivered to the people and also international communities. That's why you have to finance more students like me. So it boosts the level of my confidence, because she nodded her head, saying that, okay, good try, something like that. And then it also added up to my commitment to not letting her down. So again, I reinstated the promise in my heart that if I got the chance, if I have the opportunity to go overseas, to go to the University of Western Australia, I will do my best. And thanks to IELTS, you have facilitated my way because it's very important for me to improve my English, to do the listening tasks, writing, reading, and other kind of tests in IELTS tests. And because of that, I was able to go to my dream university to start the pursuit of my master's degree. So that's my turning point. That's the two memorable conversations, one from the interviewer and another one from the Minister of Finance. Not only Minister of Finance in general, but one of the best in Asia Pacific. And I'm so grateful that my friend took the picture so that I could remember this moment for a long time. And also talking about the book that I'm writing, based on my promise to the professor, to the interviewer, and also to the finance minister. If you can see the picture on the left, top left, is again the picture that I took with the same finance minister. It happens 1 year after I went to Perth to pursue my master degree. And I told her, Ibu, do you still remember me? And she said, yeah, I think I remember you. Yes, I'm William, the same person who met you last year. Now I'm in Perth, in the middle of my master degree. I'm almost reaching my third semester. And this is the book that I write to highlight how a man from Western Jakarta ends up in Western Australia and representing the name of Indonesia. So here are some of the things that I do, Ibu, in terms of my professional life, the way I interact with the international communities, the achievement through formal education, and also my point of view and my message to my brothers and sisters in Indonesia, to younger generation in Indonesia, that I want them to have the same opportunity with me. I want them to come to Western Australia as well, if they choose to. And then I want to say that there's no room for giving up. There's no room for giving in. And it's all about learning, learning, and learning. So I also present the book to the late Indonesian president, Pak Habibie. He has passed away right now, but I got a chance to present my book because I was saying that I'm so grateful. I was born as an Indonesian, and I got the privilege from the government of Indonesia to study abroad and also to do something about my life and also to build a positive and lasting impression to international communities. That's very important for me as an Indonesian. And also in one of the pictures, I also handed my book to the governor of Western Australia, also handed the book to one of the minister in Western Australia, also to the premier of Western Australia. So he's politically #1 guy in Western Australia. I met him and I wrote message in English, even though I know that he didn't understand my book because it was written in Bahasa Indonesia, in Indonesian. But I was saying that, Mr. Mark McGowan, I'm so grateful for being here in Perth, Western Australia. Thank you so much for creating an inclusive environment so that international students like me could study well, could interact well, and make friends with basically anyone with no hesitation. And we are so inclusive. We are supporting each other on our daily basis. And this is just the expression from me because I'm so happy and I'm so grateful. And I know that I could express it through my writing, through my books. And this one is the Australian International Education Conference. It's the oldest education conference in Australia. So in 2019, it was the 33rd edition of AIEC, and Perth was the host city for this education conference, which consolidated more than 1,000 delegates all across Australian capital cities. And so many people were there. I met new persons, I met new friends. And the tricky thing, and something that I still can't believe up until today, is that among 225 speakers in this international conference, there were only 6 plenary speakers, and I was one of them. So I spoke in the plenary session, sharing the same stage with the governor of Western Australia, with the premier of Western Australia, with the Minister of Education of Western Australia, with the former Foreign Minister of Australia, and also with the founder of African Leadership Academy. So I was thinking to myself again, if I refer to the family history, to the way my parents were raised and the situation of their life in the past, I would not have been here. And then maybe so many students, so many people deserve more than me. But it also bring me new perspective. It's not about who you are, it's not about where you were born, but it's all about what do you want to do with your life. So the key for me when I start my master degree in Perth is to going out there, is to going out from my comfort zone, practicing my English, practicing my cultural intelligence, learning from people, being open-minded, being inclusive, and learning from the best, learning from the people in education industry, and also learning from people in other kind of industries. So again, I still can't believe this. And it's also a good venue, the moment when I met one of the IELTS IDP team, Annie. Hi, Annie again. Thank you, Annie, for inviting me today to share my stories, to inspire my friends all over the world. And yeah, it's just miracle happens. And I think that miracle happens to those who work hard, who believe that the future is bright for them, and for those who never give up, never give in. And it's also, I think, the culmination of the things that I've been doing for a long time. That I start my public speaking journey when I was 12 years old. In my sixth grade, I delivered the speech during my graduation day, representing my peers, and also saying thank you to the school, saying thank you to the teachers, saying thank you to the parents. So I was holding the script, but in fact, if you were there, I'm sure you were not. I didn't read the script. So I spoke from my heart in Bahasa Indonesia, in Indonesian, and I really think that at the time, public speaking is my thing, it's my cup of tea. And also from that public speaking journey, I start pursuing study and career in communication, and also being the University of Western Australia Unibody Student Ambassador, and also being one of the International Student Ambassador for Study Perth, an education agency in Perth. So from those opportunities that was presented to me, I get a chance to speak before so many people, not only in one city, but also in other occasions, in other countries. And also I conduct so many sessions, book sharing, book launching, and also representing the organizations that I work at on multiple occasions. And also this is one of the conference that I came, that I attend. I was invited by Unibody to be one of the speakers in the workshop session in the Unibody Global Conference on the 20th of October. So it's around 2-3 weeks ago, and it's live from London. So I think that all of this journey really helped me, and English is the enabler that make it all happen. It's also, if you could see the picture, I'm sure you know where they are. It's all the journey that I got. It's the trip that I got from my job in communication related areas. And yeah, communicating is fun. Communicating is rewarding if you know how to do it and if you believe in yourself. And if you keep improving your English, if you're going to the English speaking countries, of course. Yeah, and lastly, from my slide, I just want to inform you that this is the webinar session that I conducted with other 4 friends in Adelaide, in Brisbane, in Melbourne, in response to the COVID situation. So I was telling them, if we read the news, so many news saying that there were not enough supports to international communities. And I felt that it wasn't true. The community, the government really took a good care of international students. And I told my friends across Australian capital cities that we have to do something about this, that we have to amplify the positive message, the positive experience to wider markets. Because life is all about communication. Life is all about delivering message, and life is all about building our connection. So it's all possible because I practice networking, because I practice making friends, because I practice my English, and I practice my own mindset and attitude that there's nothing is impossible. If we have the will and if we have the good intention, intention in doing that. So that's all from my presentation. I hope that we could have a more interactive question and answer session after this. So Don, back to you. Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much, William. That was very, very interesting. And especially interesting for me was to hear how, when you came to Western Australia, you found that the atmosphere was inclusive and you were able to talk to anybody. That's an interesting thing because you may have noticed that IELTS has begun a campaign on Facebook called Human Conversation, which is talking about how uh, preparing for an IELTS speaking test can help us to communicate. Did you find that your preparations for the IELTS speaking test were useful to you when you were faced with having to communicate in English?
Of course, Don. I think the old saying that practice makes perfect, it's really relevant. So the more we are exposed to English, the more we try to read, the more we try to listen, to write, and also to interact with people. Speaking English, practicing our English is very important. So it's not like you are going to have the test in the next 7 days and then you spend 7 days in front of your laptop. No. So it's a continuous process that we should have.
We have a lot of questions from people who have been attending our session. I'd like to start with one of them from Lennon. He's asking about getting scholarships and getting the IELTS score that you need for a scholarship. Was there any particular strategy or plan that you had in applying for scholarships or finding out about them?
Well, thank you for the nice yet tricky question. If you follow my story, I think there's no formula of getting a scholarship besides practicing the persistence and perseverance. Because you know that you are good enough, you are practicing hard enough, and you are mastering your English, let's say. But if the scholarship provider think that you are not capable of doing that, of getting the scholarship, then we can't do anything about that. What we can do is to keep our mindset and also our motivation. That's why I just want to call this sharing and motivation session, because I believe that all of you are good in your ways, and you could improve your skills. You could take the preparation test, you could master your English, but not everyone could think for themselves, especially in the situation when you deal with failures, that you could raise again or bouncing back from the failures. So being persistent, being persevere.
Yeah, you talk about failures, and you are a great example of someone who overcomes temporary failures. We've had a couple of questions from Sajit and Vishal, and they are asking about getting 0.5, getting 6.5 when you need 7, or getting 5.5 when you need 6. Did you have this experience yourself with IELTS? Did it take you very many attempts to get the score that you needed?
Yeah, of course. I think it's very normal for us to be nervous in the very beginning, especially during our first attempt. But trust me, that the standard was made for us to help us, to enable us fulfilling certain standards in the institution or universities that we are going to go. And you should keep telling yourself that, okay, if I got the low score in this, what can I improve? Where should I find the help and also the support, or maybe there's more preparation that I need to take. So never stop learning about that.
I'd like to add something to that, William, as well. When someone gets a 5.5 and they're looking for a 6, for example, or a 6.5 and they're looking for a 7 in speaking and in writing, they should actually go to the assessment criteria, look at the public version of the assessment criteria for speaking and writing, and they'll see that there are 4 different criteria for each of those. And if they get a 0.5, it means that for 2 of those criteria, they have got the 7, but for 2 of them, that they've only got the 6, and that results in a 6.5. Or in writing, it might be that their task 1 is strong, but their task 2 is weak, or vice versa, and that will lead to a half a band of 0.5. So if they go to the assessment criteria and study them and see where am I weak and where can I improve, then I think that that might help them focus on something. It might be vocabulary, or it might be grammar, could be something else, pronunciation, for example. We've had another question from Pradeep, and he is asking about different topics in task 2 writing. There is a great variety of topics. Is there a way to prepare for all of these different topics that you might face in the writing and the speaking, for that matter?
Well, I think the old saying that Rome is auch nicht in einem Tag erbaut worden. It means that Rome is not built in one night or one day. Sorry.
Or
so it means that if you or night, yeah. So if you really want to do good or perform good in certain aspect, including writing, you need to keep practicing from the very beginning. That's why I'm saying if you are going to have the test for in the next 7 days, you are not spending time in front of your laptop doing the practice tasks for 7 days, because I know that you know the purpose of mastering IELTS or taking the test is not for you. It's only for the universities.
Yeah.
You have to do this for you. So
Yeah.
it means that you have to make English the part of your daily routines.
Yeah.
Text in English, speak in English, read English news, try to write 2 or 3 sentences or 2 or 3 paragraphs daily.
Yeah.
Learning new vocabularies, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to do good.
Yeah, this is a very good point. I think routine, having a set time every day is a very important thing, because you know, if you rely on inspiration, oh, do I feel like it, then you might only do about, you know, 1/10 of that work. But if you do it at the same time every day. We had another question from I can't remember who asked us this question, but it was about how do you learn new vocabulary in English. This person was forgetting their vocabulary, not being able to recall it quickly enough. Is there a strategy that you would suggest in acquiring more English vocabulary?
Yeah, and I asked one of my mentors, the coach for IELTS in Indonesia, for this, and then he told me that number one, you have to build ideas in English. So whenever you have time to, let's say, have the virtual debate in your mind from one idea to another ideas, try to formulate the ideas in English. And number two, based on your interest, let's say my interest is politics, I read politics news, English news. So I learn new vocabularies in English, but most of them are about politics. But the good news is you could start doing things that you like, or reading things that you love the most. Let's say music, movies, even Korean drama these days. That's all right. You read the Korean drama news, but in English websites. So you're going to learn something new in a fun way.
That's very interesting, William. So you are saying that you need to actually think in the language that you're learning. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. We have another question from Ridi, who is asking, is it possible to attempt the IELTS test after 2 months of preparation? What do you would you suggest in that case?
Well, I think 2 months is good as long as you know the strategy and know how to do the training. So I would suggest that if you have 2 months of preparation, you should have also the real life experience interacting with people who are speaking English, and also read more news articles, and also watch English movies without the subtitle, let's say, to improve your listening skill. And also, of course, spending time in front of the laptop doing the practice test, I think is a perfect combination.
Yeah, I've prepared students over many years for IELTS, and really I think you can understand the test in about a week, really. But really, a lot of the improvement will really come outside the classroom, as you say, using
Totally
English as much as you can in different situations.
Yeah.
We have another question here, and it's about how can I improve my English if I am living in a country where English is not spoken very much. And Indonesia is a country like that. You wouldn't hear a whole lot of English.
Yeah.
So, what strategies would you suggest for that?
Well, since I call this session sharing and motivational session, and I don't want people to call me master of English or IELTS, just want to say that you should have the zero excuse policy in your life. So it doesn't matter where you live, you could always go to your smartphone, surf the internet, and also read English news. And also have the chatting apps, let's say, to make friends with people from different backgrounds, not only English, but also other language, let's say, if you want to master other language. And also you could always have access to English movies, to English music, and you could do that when you do a marathon, let's say, or when you exercise, or when you drive inside your car going somewhere, you could listen to that music, or also even podcasts is more popular today.
Yeah, and I think that's very good advice. You should not allow yourself to be defeated. And I think nowadays, I mean, with the internet, there are so many opportunities to experience English and to actually communicate in English. Did you ever use listen to podcasts, for example, or contribute to blogs and things like that online in
Yes,
English?
yeah, and one of the reasons why I registered and applied to be student ambassador during my time in Perth is because I got the platform, I got a website to post my articles. Again, I love writing, and
Yeah.
I acknowledge and I totally agree that my English is not that good, it's not on that level yet, but I believe in myself. If I keep doing that, if I share my ideas in English, at least people will understand. People
Mm,
will not mind my vocabulary, or it's
yes.
not expert enough, it's not professional enough. But
Mm,
the message itself.
mm,
So it doesn't matter the vocabulary that you use. You could always improve that. Ask your mentors, read
mm.
reputable media, and learn the way they use the vocabularies.
Yeah. And I think that's when you're learning English, especially uh, English speakers, native English speakers are very tolerant and very accepting of people who are learning the language, and they're quite used to other people speaking English, so that should encourage you, I think, to use it. A lot of questions from this session about writing. And I'm not surprised because writing seems to be difficult for a lot of people. Probably you would agree with that,
Including for me, Don.
including yes.
Yeah.
Would you say that there is a particular strategy that works to improve your writing? As you know, I mean, we can improve our reading and our listening by listening and reading a lot. What about writing? How do we improve that?
Well, I think writing is the process of our internal thought process again. So you have to have really clear ideas in your mind before you write it on the paper or before you type it.
Mm,
So practicing yourself in formulating ideas, in looking at one phenomenon and giving your comments, just internally doing it constantly every day, day by day. And then when it comes to the writing task, I think that should help
mm,
because you are getting used to formulating idea in English
yeah.
and try to state it simply.
Yeah, I'm glad you connected the speaking and the writing because I think that they're very much related. If you can practice saying the sorts of things that you're going to write about, then that will really improve both. You'll improve your speaking and you'll also improve your writing. We've had one question about uh, the second part of the speaking test, and this is where you have to speak for 2 minutes on a fairly simple topic. But it's a difficult thing, isn't it, to speak for 2 minutes on a topic with only 1 minute of preparation. Do you have any advice for someone who finds that difficult?
Well, in terms of topic, you have to really try to put yourself in different situations. So let's say before the test, 1 month before the test, 2 months before the test, you know that the topics like politics, economics, culture, and daily activities would come up during the session. And then you try to keep yourself updated, reading the news. That's very important. Reading the newspaper, reading the news sites, and then it will equip you with sufficient knowledge. So someone with sufficient knowledge will find it easier and more practical when it comes to sharing the ideas.
Yeah.
So if it's empty here, probably it could be nearly impossible to say something meaningful. But
Yeah.
if you fill up your head, your minds with precious information, with news updates, and with recent situation, at least around you, it will be very helpful.
Mm. Um, I'm interested to hear you talk about getting ideas, that being the sort of the basis of actually producing language. We've had some questions here. What sort of podcasts would you recommend someone to listen to that are particularly useful for preparing for an IELTS test?
Yeah. Now, if I'm talking about the podcast, I'm not talking about the content, but I'm talking about the English, right? So you could have, or you could choose to listen to any podcast that you want. In my case, I like the personal development. I like education. So I listen to, let's say, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is very good. It's very eloquent in saying something in English, very clear, very tough guy, and also very strong message. So at least I learned how to state ideas from him. And
Yeah.
then if you have interest in movies, let's say, you could choose your favorite artist and listen to him or her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing that you say a strong opinion or a position, because that is really one of the assessment criteria in writing, to be able to express a position. And always the task in task two is to give your opinion. So some people are not very comfortable giving an opinion, and that's something that they really have to practice doing. Um, we've had quite a few questions about preparation, especially for reading. And one of the questions is about managing time. Uh, in an academic reading test, you have to read about 2,500 words, three passages, and some people find it a very big task. Are there any suggestions that you have for managing your time or improving the speed with which you read?
Well, I think it could be quite difficult if we are not used to it, but with practice, it's all possible. But one small tip from me is I don't have to, or we don't have to read the whole passage and let it finish before answering the question. So you could do that. You could try to answer that as you go through it.
Mm. I agree completely. So you shouldn't think that you have to read 2,500 words. You can probably get away with reading about 1,500. And I think the secret is probably reading the questions carefully first and finding the key word, the information that you need. And you should be able to find that relatively quickly. And by a process of elimination, you should be able to actually say, oh, well, this is the answer and that isn't. So again, practice makes perfect. And the other thing, of course, William, is the more words you know, the easier it is to read. Would you agree with that?
Yes, totally.
So learning vocabulary, did you have a particular strategy for learning new words? Do you keep a little notebook, for example?
When I was in university during my undergraduate study, yes, I had my notebooks to write new keywords, new word every day. But as time goes by, sometimes I forget to put it on the paper. But the trick is when you learn a very cool word, let's say, you could try to combine that word with the conversation or speaking situation. Let's say if you meet someone or you want to state your ideas in these areas, you want to incorporate that words and then you try to build the whole idea. You could use dictionary or Google Translate, let's say, anything that you want, and you try to combine it to insert it into a sentence.
Yeah, yeah,
It's easier to memorize.
yeah. Of course, that could be difficult though, because you might be translating it from your own language and using that word maybe incorrectly, and that comes back to your idea originally that you should be thinking in English. And I think that the more you can do that, the more naturally you'll be able to use these words.
Yes.
We have another question from someone who has currently got a band 5 in IELTS in general training, and they have only 3 weeks, and they need to get a band 7. Now, this is I have an opinion about this. I think it's probably not possible, but how long do you think it does take for somebody to go from, say, a band 5 to a band 7, in your experience?
Well, I think we should do it step by step. We should appreciate that the joy of achieving something is in the process, because I know that you want to go through this process, the IELTS test, to pursue the higher goals, and you want to make English as a part of your daily routines. So it's not a project impossible. It's not. You could go to the closest IELTS office in your region, in your country, and ask for some professional advice. Of course, Don will be more expert in this rather than me, but I think enjoy the process. But making progress over 2 weeks or 2 months is possible, but you also have to look back to yourself. How much effort will I put into it?
Yeah, and I think that is good advice. Finding a good teacher, finding someone who you trust to tell you, to give you good advice, and actually following that advice is always a good strategy. But you can also do a lot by yourself, and I think you've also mentioned that as well. You know, using the internet, creating your own blog, for example, all of that. It all fits together, I think. Um, One person, Prajup, has asked about speaking specifically. He says, my speaking is not good. Please share some tips to improve my speaking efficiency. I can begin answering that because I know a lot about the speaking test. And as I said earlier, there are 4 criteria. And each of those criteria, the first one is fluency. The second one is your lexical resource, your vocabulary, then your grammar, and then your pronunciation. And for someone who says, my speaking is not good, I ask them, well, which part of your speaking is not good? And it may be that they don't have a good vocabulary, or it may be that their grammar is weak, or it may be that they can't pronounce English very well. I know for Indonesians, I think English is not that difficult to pronounce. You know, your language and our and English, we have the same alphabet, for example. So this sort of does help, I think. But if you come from Vietnam or China or somewhere like that, or it may be more difficult. So I would advise this person, I would advise Prajup, that they should focus on those areas that are weak. And it could be pronunciation, it could be grammar, it could be fluency. So would you like to add anything to that, William?
Well, at least if English is not our first language, we should try to, at least, at the very least, can you speak fluently in your original language, in your mother tongue? If you can do that, and if you know that the answer is yes, then you can do that in English. But we should not expect, if let's say, in our mother tongue, we couldn't really state our ideas clearly, and all of a sudden we want to be good in speaking English, having the totally different level of fluency. I mean, it just doesn't add up to each other. So you could start anywhere you want, starting from the formulating idea itself, the way to manage your thoughts, and also start from building your vocabulary, let's say, and also listening to the way other people speak.
That's an interesting point. So you would suggest that if you're fluent in your first language, then you're more likely to be fluent in your second language.
At least in my personal experience, though.
Yeah, yeah. So in some ways, it could be a matter of personality. You know, if you are a hesitant thinker, if you are a little bit shy, then really these are questions that you really need to address, because the speaking test is a performance, really, in some ways, and you need to perform for another person. But I'd like to add that the examiner is a very supportive and friendly person. I mean, they are an examiner and they are judging you, but they are really keen, they're very eager for you to perform well. And if you're a test taker, you should be encouraged by that. And you shouldn't worry about asking them a question. You should say, you know, what do you mean by that? You know, can you explain that? Those things are perfectly okay in the speaking test. We've got only time for a few more questions. One person has asked this question, which do you recommend starting to learn with? Vocabulary, or just learning a lot of words? Or should a person concentrate on listening to a lot of English? Should they start by writing a lot of English? Is there any rule there from your experience?
Well, I think based on my experience learning English since I was in primary school, but I wasn't that serious at the time. I'm sorry, mom and dad, because
Okay. I don't think they're listening.
Yeah. So I think that is an integrated process. So when you know the new word, you should try to pronounce it. You should try to combine it into one complete sentence. So it's not that you master writing, but you can't really speak. But I just want to make this an integrated process that you connect one word or one sentence to each other.
I think that's excellent advice. And that word integrate is a great word, because I think the more you can, combine your study of speaking with writing, with listening, and with reading, then the more quickly you'll learn, and the more thoroughly, the more completely you will learn. So that's very good advice, I think. We'll only have time for probably one more question now. And this one is a very, this question, just see, it's a very specific question about the reading. In academic reading and in general training reading, there are question types where you have to match, for example, a heading to a paragraph, or a person to an idea. Is there any strategy or any suggestion that you might have that worked for you?
Well, to be honest, when you read 100 passage, when you read 100 articles, you know that there is a similar pattern in that. So reading 100 articles will build the sense of quote unquote guessing. So sometimes we are not only relying on the way we judge the, let's say, the headline or also the content of the passage, but also when you read a lot, somehow you know. So that's why, yeah, practicing is very important then.
Yeah, that's very good advice. And I like the way you use the word pattern, because when you do read enough of these articles, and I remind the people who are listening today that in an academic reading, it's about one page of a news magazine, about 900 words. And there's always a pattern. There will be some sort of some introductory comment. There'll be a paragraph related to an important issue, and then another important issue, and there will be a conclusion. And if you understand the pattern of a piece of writing, then that can help you find the key points as you read. So that's very good advice. Okay, William, we run out of time now, but it's been a delight listening to you, and I hope, and I'm sure, that our listeners have learned a lot, because I have as well. If there are any more questions that you want answered, then I think that you should put them on our Facebook page, and we will get back to you with an answer. But for now, that is the end of this session, Ask the Expert. And again, thank you very much, William, and we'll see you next time. Okay?
Thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.